Are you at the stage in your business where you're wondering, can I afford to hire? Is now the right time? Can my business actually afford it? Well, believe it or not, a lot of business owners go through the exact same question you're asking yourself. And in this video, I'm going to share with you today, it's actually a workshop where I walk business owners who are looking to make their first hires through the process of understanding what are the actual costs and what to think about as you're growing and scaling your company. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy.
Business is making the complex simple, business finance, or MTCS, business finance for short. So again, it's taking the complex subject of numbers and financial information and just really distilling it down to the fundamentals, making it really, really simple for business owners. Whether you work with me or don't work with me, the whole idea of here is to pass on the things that I learned from working with clients to other business owners who are looking to grow and educate themselves. So I'm so happy everyone who's watching. We'll go ahead and jump right into it. So what we're going to cover today are three basic things. We're going to cover when to hire, when's the right time to hire, the cost of hiring, and then the last part is the thought process around hiring. So as a business owner, you're definitely going to have certain ways of thinking as you're looking to make those decisions in your company, because hiring is, whether we like it or not, no matter how much AI improves, going to be the biggest expense item on our P&L or profit and loss statement every single month. So it's really, really important that you nail this and that you have a firm grasp of the hiring process, because a lot of your money ends up going there from your expenses. So the first thing we're going to talk about is when to hire. And the first thing that I notice for when to hire is usually when a business owner is feeling like they're at max capacity. Okay. When you feel like you're at max capacity, you don't have a team yet. That means you're the one person show. You're doing it all, right? You're responding to the emails, you're fulfilling if you're a service-based company, you're taking orders, you're the one who's selling, you're the one who's coming up with the social media hooks and the video, and you're doing the editing, and you're getting your website ready. Like you're one of all these different hats. And as you are, starting to gain a little bit of revenue, gain a little bit of traction, maybe your product or your service is getting some traction in the marketplace, maybe people are starting to refer you, you're going to start running out of time really quick, right? There's only one of you. And so you are a limited resource. And the idea here is you want to hire to be able to replace yourself and work on higher leveraged activities within your company. So higher leveraged activities means things that will help generate typically more revenue for the company. And we'll get into this more as we go. Okay, so number two, you always should be able to think about when you're hiring someone, whether it be hourly, whether it be you're going to offer them a salary, even if it's an independent contractor, really, any team member, you always want to think, can I sustain this person, no matter if it's the good times in my company or no matter it's the bad times in my company. A lot of times, small businesses hire a lot when they're doing well, and then when hard times hit, they have a real struggle of trying to maintain the team because they don't want to let anyone go. And so then, what happens is their profits start to diminish, or they may even start going into the negative. So another thing is you want to be able to sustain the cost even in the hard times. There's different types of business models. And so some business models have like a flat or maybe a slight incline curve with their revenue. And other business models, maybe that aren't as reoccurring, have more of these fluctuations. Or maybe you're in a seasonal business. If you're in like a therapy or healthcare practice, it may be lighter in the summertime because everyone's out doing vacation. And then in the fall and the spring, they're back in school. So there's more sessions going on, for example. And so revenue may fluctuate. And the goal here is to base your spending, or what you're going to spend on your team, on the lowest months. Okay. So whatever your lowest months are, base your spend on that. And I'll give you an example real quick. So the example here, let's just say for the last 12 months, your business was doing somewhere between $7,000 to $12,000 in revenue per month. If you're doing more, great. But let's just give this as the example. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is take out all of your operating expenses. That means if you are charging for rent, or if you're charged rent, utilities, if you're running ads, if you already have other people on staff, right? You take out everything it takes to keep your business open, the doors open in your business. And let's just say, for example, right now you're smaller, it's about $5,000 a month to operate your business. That means you have $2,000 to spend, up to $2,000 to spend on the new hire. So even though you might have way better months, always base what you can spend on your lowest months if you are more of a fluctuating or seasonal type of revenue model or business model that you have. Now, if it's a steady state, then you can easily say, okay, I want to just maintain this much margin. Let's call it 10%. And anytime I'm going above that margin, my profit margin goes up maybe 12, 13, 14, then you can have that room to hire that 4%, 5% to hire for your next position that you're looking for. Okay. But I want to get the seasonal one because it is a little bit more complex. And I feel like a lot of business owners in the beginning, it's more sporadic, right? Your revenue, it may be good one month, may not be the best the next month. Okay. So the next thing is also to understand where your company is on its journey and what the constraints are. And your business will have many constraints, right? It'll have constraints maybe in the IT area based off of, what you can afford for like your CRM or your email system or what you can afford. The constraint could be the knowledge of your team, or The constraint could also be your finances in general, right? If you are starting your company from scratch, which a lot of small business owners are, your biggest constraint is probably going to be your finances. You don't have venture back money or you don't have grant money coming in to help relieve that constraint. And so and I'm making this presentation around, these companies that are starting from scratch or don't have a lot of money and it's more self-generated and they're using their cash flows. So understand what your constraints are and focus on those definitely. And keep them in mind as you are looking to hire. And then, like we talked about, we don't want to bring it into the red, meaning you don't want your expenses to go higher than your revenue. It makes sense. I say this, but you'll be surprised at how many business owners, as I work with them and I clean their books and I do some financial analysis, that they're spending more than they're making. And that is the fundamentals of business owner. That's how you start borrowing money. That's how you start putting things on a line of credit. That's how you start getting SBA loans to try to cover your operations. And it's not sustainable. So always, always, always fundamental here. Just make sure your expenses are always below your revenue. Okay. So that covers the first section that we talked about. We're going to go into now the cost of hiring. And there's some more hard costs associated and some that are more soft or hidden costs associated. So I want to make sure that you really, really have this awareness and understanding of how much is it actually going to cost me to hire this person I'm looking to. So when you are looking to hire someone, obviously the first thing that comes up is how much do I offer them? And it's going to be based off of the skills and it's going to be based off of how much value they can bring to your organization. So what skills have I learned along the way? Are their skills very valuable or hard to find in the marketplace? And then how much value specifically do they add to your team? Have they worked in that same industry for 10 years, 15 years? That's a lot of value they can bring. If they haven't and they're new, maybe it's not a lot of value they can bring. So you have to be able to reward those things when you're looking to hire. And a great way to know how much to hire is simply just to ask ChatGPT. If you haven't been using it, I highly recommend ask ChatGPT and say something like this: I am looking to hire, fill in the blank your position that you're looking to hire. Maybe in your first one, maybe admin, or maybe you're looking for someone in marketing, right? And then it says, please give me at least 5 references for salary and create a table that shows low, mid, and high ranges. Okay. So it'll go on the internet and it'll scour all the main sites that tell you, these salary ranges that you can offer. And then it'll put it all into, a table within 30 seconds. So you don't have to do all this research yourself. Now, specificity is key here. If you want to get even more specific to whatever country you're hiring out of, if it's not the US, or maybe a state if you're hiring within the US, and then years of experience, right? So all those things play a factor into how much you're going to offer. And so here's an example. I literally did this on ChatGPT. It took for me like 15 seconds, not even joking. And I used it for a marketing manager example. So marketing manager, I didn't even specify years of experience. I didn't yet specify the location per se. So it just gives you a range here. And we're going to use this as in our next example of how much do I actually, how much is the actual cost for hiring this person? So let's just say, for example, you're looking for a marketing manager, and you're going to offer a $60,000 salary, right? You're making money and you're like, okay, I think $60,000 looks like it's on the low end, maybe between low and mid, that I can offer and get someone in that maybe have a few years of experience and then they can work with our team. So how much would this person actually cost you, the business owner, is the question. So most people think, okay, their salary is 60K. I'm going to divide it by 12 because there's 12 months in the year. So every month they're going to cost me right around $5,000. That sounds about right. $5,000. Okay. Add up to 60. Wrong. So if this is your first time as a business owner, if you haven't hired anyone yet, there's a lot of actually additional costs. How much more are we talking? So on average, you're looking at an additional 23% on top of whatever you're going to offer them in salary in additional costs. And you might be asking yourself, okay, where are those additional costs coming from? Well, here's the thing. If you're a business owner, you're going to have to pay payroll taxes, and that's around 7.65%. And also some other states, they add in a couple other smaller percentages, so it can go up to 8%. You have healthcare costs, which go up every single year, dental, vision, 401k, depending on what benefits you're going to offer the people that are joining your team. That's all going to come out of your pocket, or maybe you can split the cost where they pay a certain amount and you pay a certain amount. But on average, 23%. So, and if it's an additional 23% on a 60K salary that we were looking at before, really the cost is $73,800. So a lot more than what you originally thought. Okay. Divide that by 12, we're at $6,150, and the total is $1,150 more than we originally thought. Because originally we were just thinking, okay, I'm going to offer them the salary. That's how much it's going to be. Side note here, if you are going to offer, an independent contractor, you shouldn't really offer them a salary, right? It's more project-based, but you can get away without having to offer them benefits, and you can get away without having to pay payroll tax. But I really highly encourage you to look at the IRS's definition of what an independent contractor is to make sure you follow the rules. Because if not, you're going to get dinged if they ever give you an audit and they ask. So there's also some other costs to you that aren't necessarily going to show up on your profit and loss statement or on your accounting sheets. And this is the cost to train a new hire. Now, I looked up and there's a whole bunch of different ranges. Obviously, it depends on, do you have an internal training system already built? Are they just shadowing you and following you? Well, that's going to take time. That's going to take hours every single day. And it could take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, sometimes even a year, depending on how complex the job is, to train them to where now you can feel, okay, I can let them go and do their thing. And it's no longer extra time on my end. So I have to invest in them and train them and say, nope, do it again, do it again. So keep that in mind. Also, there's a loss of productivity, right? When you are doing the thing, let's just say social media, for example, you're probably going to have a lot more time and experience and have gained these skills more than probably the person you're hiring at first, especially if finances are your constraint. A lot of times you're going to hire people at the lower end of these salary ranges. So they're not going to have the most experience in the world. So you're going to have to train them. That's the trade-off here. So if you're going to train them, you're going to lose productivity because obviously if you did it by yourself, you're going to do it faster. Okay. So those are the costs that you want to account for. And the bottom line here in this section is just know the full costs associated with hiring. Just make sure you have that awareness before you start building out your team of all the financial costs and all of the time costs and maybe some other hidden costs associated with hiring those first few people until you start getting a groove going, right? All right. Third part here is the thought process around hiring. Okay. So when you hire, there's one of two things that you need to keep in mind for every single hire. So number one, that you should be hiring to replace you in a certain position or role, again, to free up your time to be able to work on the next thing within the business, or they just need to be a pure revenue generating position for the company itself. Those are really the only two options. When you're first hiring in your small team, they're either replacing you so you become more efficient and do other things within your company, or they're just purely generating revenue for you. We're going to look at the first one. Okay. So they replace you and eventually they free up your time. So how does this work? Okay. So if you're a small business owner, usually this is how the sequence goes. You start learning a new position inside your business. Let's just say, for example, it's running ads, right? You're learning how to run meta ads or Google ads or SEO. You can use whatever example you want here, but you start learning that new thing. And over time, what happens? You start getting really good at doing that thing. Over months and months of doing that thing, you're like, wow, okay, I'm starting to see results here. This is great. I'm getting a return on investment. This is amazing. And then you're like, okay, now here's the third part to it. I want to now hire someone to put in place so they can do it. And then I can go learn the next thing. Okay. Again, with money as your constraint, a lot of times you're going to hire people that don't have the 5 years, the 10 years of experience, and they may be learning right alongside you, or you may have to teach them that thing. And then they learn over time, get up to your level, and eventually surpass you if you surround them with great team members. And then what does this do for you? Well, after that happens, you start the cycle all over again. So you're going to go on as the business owner to learn the next thing to help your company grow. And then you're going to get really good at it. And then you're going to find someone to replace that part in the company. And then you repeat the process over and over again. So you're freeing up your time. You're making more money for the company, your company, and then you're finding someone who can do that. So then you can go to the next thing that will help you make more money for the company. And so you're growing, you're constantly growing in this cycle. All right. So what you give up as you go up. So as you are finding things to replace yourself with, meaning people and processes, which ones are likely that you're going to give up? Well, there's certain ranges that I've noticed over time, and maybe this can help you. All right. So if you're going from 0 to 1 million in revenue, usually the first things that you're giving up are the admin and fulfillment. So you're going to find people because, again, the lower costs to start responding to emails for you, to start scheduling and managing your calendar. Maybe they may be getting a little bit into HR as well too for you. And then fulfillment. So whatever it is that you do, eventually, unless you can keep on charging higher and higher prices for what you do, you can't continue to exchange time for money because then you're constrained. And so if you want your business to grow, you're going to have people to come in that you're able to plug them in for you and they're exchanging money for time, right? And then, hopefully you have good margins there. So from 0 to $1 million, you're looking to trade out typically. Now there are business models that are different than this, but typically it's admin and fulfillment. When you go from 1 million to 3 million, it's going to be sales and marketing. So typically as you're leaving admin and fulfillment, you're spending a lot of time in sales and marketing, especially if that's your biggest constraint in business is to get more leads in and through. And then eventually in that 1 to 3 million mark, you're putting in a full team and you're putting in managers that can start to take the place of you. And then from the $3 to $10 million mark, really you're starting to step back from managing departments. So if you are still overseeing all the different departments, you're putting in people that now have that experience, can guide the people below them. And really at that point, now you just have a senior leadership team that is reporting to you. Okay. So these are the things that you're giving up as you go up, and you have to continue to trade off to make better decisions with your time. Okay. So 2, they generate more revenue for the company. So that was the other option that you have here. So if they don't replace you, then they may be purely generating revenue for the company. So think sales, think marketing, and then in some industries, some businesses, it could also be fulfillment. And the rule of thumb here on average is you want to get at least three times what you're spending on this generating whatever your team is to generate revenue You want to be able to get 3 times what the expense is to fund that team. Not only the team, but anything that's additional on top of it. So think if you're running ads, it's the cost of running ads. If you have a CRM system, it's the cost of your CRM system. So it's everything that's costing you to acquire a customer. And so you're going to need to be able to do 3x that in new revenue to be able to sustain good margins for your company. Now, an example, if you spend 10,000 in your sales and marketing altogether, right, all the combined between your software systems and your people, you need to be making at least 30,000 in new sales for it to work. And I get it. When you first start, it may be like a 1-to-1 ratio where you're spending 10K, you're making 10K, but then you want to be able to try to get that number and that gap higher and higher as you go. And then the floor after a while should be 3-to-1, meaning 30,000 for 10,000. Okay. So how do I determine who I need to hire right now? So this is the last thing I want to leave you on is actionable step that you can take right now. If you're starting to consider, okay, who do I need to replace me in my business if you're looking to do that? All right. So here it's a 2-step process, really simple. And I encourage you to do this if you're going to look to hire within the next few months or even, this year, or maybe even early next year. You need to start knowing, okay, how do I know what's that first position for me? Because like I said, I'm giving you general, but you need to know for you specifically. So this is how you figure it out. So step one, what you're going to do is you're going to start looking at where you're spending the most time in your company. You're going to start saying, okay, what in my day am I doing in my business day? And I suggest you do this in 15-minute increments. If you don't want to do in 15-minute increments, you can do 30-minute increments. And you say, okay, for this 15 minutes, I did emails. So the next 15 minutes, I did more emails. And the next 15 minutes, I had to respond to Slack messages. And then the next 15 minutes, and you get the idea. You go down through the whole thing. And then if you do this for a week, you're going to start getting a real accurate snapshot of where your time is going. Again, your time is the most valuable thing, and you have to start getting ruthless with your time if you want to be a successful business owner. Because if you don't, there's other people who will be willing to spend the time on the things that really move the needle. And that's the most important thing you can do as a business owner. So step 2, once you have everything written down for your week, you're going to look for the things that take the most time out of your day and are the cheapest to replace yourself with. Again, if finances are your constraint, this is what you're going to do. This is the game plan here. So if you look through the whole thing and you realize, okay, I see that, I spend a lot of time, I go back to this, but I spend a lot of time just looking and answering or replying to emails. Maybe admin is the first one that I need to do. Or maybe for you, you're like, I spend a lot of time seeing clients. And that may be something that's the first thing you have to give up, right? So you have to figure out, again, what's the cheapest thing you can replace yourself with as far as finding someone, a talent, a team member, and then, based on the amount of time that you're spending in that area. Okay, so these are the different things that I can recommend that you probably can look at. If you want to narrow it down, all right, what do I want to hire? Typically, this is what you'll see within your first 5 hires. So most of the times you might find either admin as your first hire or first few hires, customer success or fulfillment, so someone to replace you, providing the service if you're a service-based business. Sales, it could be someone to complement you. So if you're really good at sales, then it could be someone just to generate more, some more leads for you. If you are not very good at marketing at all, maybe that's where you go first, right? And you also have to know, okay, what is my business needing the most of? So each business, it may look a little different. And I also put bookkeeper on here as well because it's a very, very inexpensive thing to outsource and to make sure it gets done correctly. And you don't have any issues or worries about IRS audits or did I do this correctly when you do it DIY or if you just wait to the end of the year. There's things that can get missed and you don't want to do that because that just causes a lot of problems down the line. If you ever want to sell your business, they're going to want to see all your financials. If you ever want to bring on a partner, they're going to want to see all your financials. If you ever want to get a loan from a bank, they're going to want to see all your financials. So it's really, really important to have and to make sure it's documented correctly because again, it's going back to what I said, you can make way better decisions if you know where your money is going, what you're spending it on, down to the T. Okay? And so that's what we talked about today. I hope this was helpful. We talked about when to hire, we talked about the cost of hiring, and then we talked about the thought process around hiring. And that's it.